You know by now that we're all about the journey. June's journey, that is. I feel this game was made for us specifically. It's the closest I've come to feeling like I've been dropped in the middle of a mystery novel set in the 1920s.
That's because you get to play as June, a globe-trotting flapper/amateur sleuth who lives to solve mysteries. You get to visit all sorts of fascinating places, from Paris to Cuba. You beat levels by identifying hidden objects in the scene. And we found that the more we play, the sharper our observational skills become.
The game is delightful, and a wonderful way to relax. I'll often pull my phone out and play it when I've got a free moment, like I'm on hold with an archive, or I'm waiting for a courthouse to open up in the morning. I'm currently on Chapter 16, meaning I'm searching for the son of June's housekeeper, who's on the run from New Orleans gamblers and the police. It's a wild time.
We know our audience is filled with folks who love a good mystery. Now is your chance to try your hand at being a sleuth yourself. Discover your inner detective when you download June's Journey for free today on iOS and Android. Content warning. This episode contains discussion of violence, sexual crimes, and murder, including the murder and sexual exploitation of children.
Judge Fran Gull wasn't selected to preside over the trial of Richard Allen by accident. Allen, of course, is accused of murdering Liberty German and Abigail Williams in Delphi, Indiana. The brutal slaying of these two young girls has become a highly publicized crime. People around the world care about these girls and seeing justice done in their case. It would appear that the Indiana Supreme Court took this into consideration when they appointed Judge Gull to the case. See, she has presided over a number of high-profile cases in the past. We'll talk about some of them today, along with a few other interesting aspects of Judge Gull's career that may have an impact on events going forward.
While we were all awaiting future developments in the ongoing case against Allen, we feel that one way for us all to better understand what's going on, and what may happen in the future, would be to take a close look at the principals in the legal case. Defense attorneys Brad Rozzi and Andy Baldwin, prosecutor Nicholas McLeland, and of course Judge Fran Gull. We've previously covered the careers of the two defense attorneys. Today, we'll be turning our eyes towards the bench. We want to get a better view of the judge who's been tasked with steering this case through the legal system.
In this second episode of 3, we'll go into some of the more high-profile cases Judge Gull has presided over. Our previous episode dealt with the beginnings of her career. In our next episode, we'll get an opportunity to see Judge Gull in action in one of her most impactful roles. My name is Anya Kane. I'm a journalist.
And I'm Kevin Greenlee. I'm an attorney.
We first connected while looking into the Burger Chef murders, an Indiana cold case. Together, we built a spreadsheet documenting hundreds of cases of restaurant-related homicides. That original spreadsheet gave way to our podcast, The Murder Sheet.
Now we maintain that same research-centric, investigative approach as we look into all sorts of homicides, including unsolved cases, historical crimes, and, of course, restaurant murders.
We don't just chat about the headlines. Our podcast is a platform for our journalism. The Murder Sheet focuses on investigative reporting, thoughtful analysis, thorough research, and in-depth interviews.
We're the Murder Sheet.
And this is The Delphi Murders, the Honorable Judge Fran Gull Presiding, Part 2, Complete Control of the Courtroom.
Over the course of her career, Judge Gull has presided over a number of high-profile cases, although the case against Richard Allen is likely the most scrutinized one to date. We'll talk about a few of those cases now. Every trial is different, of course, but some of these instances may give us a sense of what we can expect going forward in the Delphi case.
One case that came up quite a bit was the case against a man named Joseph Corcoran. On July 26, 1997, Corcoran was living at a home with his brother James, his sister Kelly, and Kelly's fiancé Robert Turner. That day, friends Timothy Bricker and Doug Stillwell also came over.
Corcoran later claimed that he heard the four men, including his own brother, talking about him, making fun of him. He loaded a semi-automatic rifle and gunned them all down.
This wasn't the first time Corcoran found himself accused of brutally murdering members of his own family. 5 years earlier, he was charged with doing the same thing to his parents, Jack and Catherine, when he was just 16. Law enforcement said he did the shooting and then nonchalantly rode the bus to school. There were no witnesses. The murder weapon, a shotgun, wasn't found. Even though Corcoran had tried to bribe some of his friends to commit the murders, it wasn't enough for a jury. Corcoran was acquitted.
There was little question about the facts of the case at his second murder trial. Corcoran had spent the years after his parents' murder assembling an arsenal of firearms and growing increasingly paranoid. On the day of the quadruple homicide, his sister Kelly returned home after a trip to the grocery store, finding one of her brothers, her fiancé, and their friends dead. She'd screamed at Corcoran, who was sitting on the porch. But since the prosecutors were going for the death penalty, the stakes were high. Judge Fran Gull ruled that the jury should be selected from Porter County. Those jurors and alternates were selected, and then driven to Allen County and sequestered.
This is a different case, and it has to be handled differently, Gull told the press. It's scrutinized more closely, there's more interest from the media and the public.
In the press, Gull revealed that she had worked on potential death penalty cases as a prosecutor. None of those went to trial. The Corcoran case was the first one she dealt with as a judge.
Certain facts had to be barred from the case, namely the murder of Corcoran's parents. A defendant's criminal history is often considered prejudicial to a jury, so it needed to be kept out, especially given that he was acquitted of the crime. Throughout the proceedings, Corcoran turned down multiple plea deals that would have spared him from execution, while his attorneys raised questions about his mental competency.
But the second time around, Corcoran failed to convince the jury. Corcoran's actions, which involved having the foresight to hide his young niece away upstairs before the shooting, indicated that he was not insane when committing the crime. After only 35 minutes of deliberation, jurors hurried back into the courtroom. They voted to convict Corcoran on all 4 counts of murder, and recommended that he receive the death penalty. Judge Gull went with the jury's recommendation and sentenced Corcoran to death. She said he was a dangerous, evil mass murderer.
Mr. Corcoran, you knew immediately what you had done, Judge Gull said. You knew at the time, and you knew what you were doing was a horrible, horrible thing.
Later, it fell to Judge Gull to try to reason with Corcoran. The convicted killer stopped cooperating with his attorneys and refused to sign paperwork signing off on an appeal. He said he wanted to die. Judge Gull urged him to reconsider. Later on, he changed his mind and ended up appealing on the grounds that the judge had sentenced him improperly.
In death penalty cases, appeals can take years. In 2015, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals decided against Corcoran's appeal, finding that he did not prove that there were errors in how Judge Gull sentenced him. He's still on death row at the Indiana State Prison in Michigan City. According to an article from Indiana Capital Chronicle, he's one of 8 men on the state's death row. That doesn't count federal prisoners on death row in Terre Haute, Indiana, of course. As a state, Indiana hasn't executed anyone since 2009. The reason is pharmaceutical manufacturers don't wish to supply death penalty states with some of the necessary ingredients for the lethal injections.
One 2006 case that Judge Gull took on would also involve questions around the death penalty, as well as significant local media coverage. This case sparked public outrage as it involved the horrific deaths of 4 young girls.
A man named Simon Rios was arrested for a crime spree that crossed county lines, from Indiana's Delaware County to Allen County. Rios was accused of grabbing 10-year-old Alejandra Gutierrez at her school bus stop. Gutierrez was a schoolmate of Rios' daughter, Liliana. Gutierrez's body was found in a gravel pit in Delaware County. She had been raped and strangled to death. Days later, Rios murdered his wife, Ana Casas, and his daughters, Liliana, Catherine, and Thania. Allen County ended up trying Rios for the murder of his family.
Because of the pretrial publicity, Judge Gull opted to have jurors selected from outside of Allen County. She even noted that the court might need to seek a jury pool from as far away as Evansville or Gary. But there wasn't a trial, and the death penalty was ultimately taken off the table when Rios pled guilty. The sentencing was an emotional event. Rios' defense attorney, Michelle Krause, cried, as did Allen County prosecutor Karen Richards. Rios received 4 life sentences for the murder of his family, and later an additional life sentence and 100 years for Gutierrez's abduction, rape, and murder. In 2008, Rios died by suicide in prison.
Now, let's get into yet another high-profile Indiana case that also has a few parallels to Judge Gull's experience with the Delphi murders. The actual homicides in this case played out quite differently, but the crime also attracted heavy pretrial publicity, which required Judge Gull to enter into the case despite being from faraway Allen County.
We're talking about the Richmond Hill explosion. On November 10, 2012, on the southeast side of Indianapolis, a home in the Richmond Hills subdivision blew up. 2 people residing in the area, Dion and Jennifer Longworth, were killed. Other neighbors were injured. The blast caused millions of dollars in damages, and dozens of affected homes ended up being torn down. It was catastrophic and devastating for the people in that area, and it was no accident.
Investigators quickly learned a few alarming facts. The house that exploded belonged to a nurse named Monserrati, or Monsi, Shirley. But she'd come off rather well despite that. She just happened to board her cat that weekend. Her young daughter just happened to be off with friends that day. And she and her boyfriend Mark Leonard, a man with a history of scam accusations, just happened to be out at a casino. Also, the insurance policy on her house had just happened to have been bumped up to $300,000. Detectives would conclude that Shirley, Leonard, Leonard's half-brother Bob, and 2 others named Gary Thompson and Glenn Holtz had conspired to blow up the house to get a big insurance payout.
This case was a huge deal in Indiana. It's not surprising why. The idea of one's neighbors being so greedy that they'd risk blowing up a block for financial gain is horrible to contemplate. I remember when this first happened, people I knew were getting calls from friends and family outside the state who were concerned that they'd been living near Richmond Hill. The media coverage was intense.
Shirley ultimately pled out in 2015 in exchange for testifying against her fellow conspirators. She revealed that the plan had been to flood the house with natural gas and then rig up the microwave in a manner that would create a spark, thus detonating the house and allowing for an insurance windfall.
The defense teams of the various suspects objected to the intense media scrutiny on the case. In 2015, Allen County Judge Francis Gull was selected to try Bob Leonard's case. Bob Leonard's case was sent to Allen County, while his half-brothers went to St. Joseph County. When Bob Leonard declared his intent to fire his attorney and represent himself, never a great idea, Judge Gull said no. A report from CBS 4's Russ McQuaid, a terrific journalist who's also extensively covered the Delphi murders, revealed some interesting exchanges between the defendant and the judge.
"You are not able to represent yourself," Judge Gull said. "There's not much more that I can do."
Mark Leonard was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. He died in 2018. His brother Bob was sentenced to 2 life sentences. Shirley got 50 years, the most she could get based on her plea. Thompson got 30 years, and Holtz got 3.
We are so delighted to work with our sponsor, Brilliant Earth. This is a company that offers some of the most brilliant and romantic engagement rings and wedding bands out there, all the while ensuring a commitment to ethical sourcing and sustainability.
If you're looking to get married or to become engaged, or even if you're just searching for a special piece of fine jewelry, you have to check out their website. They make browsing so easy.
They even let you design your own perfect engagement ring. Or you can shop by style. I love the delicate willow rings, along with the 3-stone Nadia rings and the classic freesia rings. It's so hard to choose.
And you don't have to worry about the ethical implications of your purchase. Your special gift, your engagement ring, your wedding band, should never be tarnished by the idea that the gems or materials came from an abusive system.
See, Brilliant Earth has a commitment to beyond conflict-free diamonds. That means one thing. They only accept diamonds from mining operations in countries that strictly follow international labor, trade, and environmental standards. Fewer than 1% of other diamond suppliers meet Brilliant Earth standards.
You can feel good about your purchase, knowing that you're supporting a brand that actually cares about its ethical impact and is committed to fostering better standards in the jewelry business.
Check out all of their beautiful pieces at brilliantearth.com. That's brilliantearth.com. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit for a reason. HelloFresh really wants you to have it all. Free time and fresh, tasty food. That's why they take care of all the meal planning and deliver the ingredients so everything you need to whip up a delicious meal arrives right to your door. We love the convenience of getting high-quality, pre-measured ingredients shipped right to our door so we can have the fun of cooking meals together in the kitchen without the pressure of worrying about whether or not we have all the items we need.
And let me stress that when we say high-quality ingredients, we really mean it. The last time I was in the grocery store, some of the produce I saw looked like it had been sitting out for weeks. And that is frustrating because this is the peak time for summer produce. Well, HelloFresh makes sure that their ingredients travel from the farm to your front door in less than 7 days. And when something is that fresh, it simply tastes better.
This is another great reason to try out HelloFresh. And remember, Murder Sheet listeners get a special discount.
Go to HelloFresh.com/MSheet50 and use code MSheet50 for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, go to HelloFresh.com/MSheet50 and use code MSheet50 for 50% off plus free shipping. Find out why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit.
You'll likely notice that throughout our coverage of Judge Gull's career, in this episode and our previous episode, we've been informing you of the various sentences defendants have received and whether or not they're still incarcerated.
Well, we're doing that because it's a topic that Judge Gull has actually spoken on. You see, judges are often bound by sentencing guidelines and existing rules around credit time.
The rules around prison sentences allow inmates to receive a certain amount of time off their sentence for every day without disciplinary action.
The goal of these rules is to encourage inmates to behave better while incarcerated, and to reward those who make a positive change. But many feel that in some cases, with serious and violent offenders, this ends up allowing criminals off easy. In 2006, Judge Gull told the AP that she had seen so many victims and victims' families become disheartened with the system.
They are furious. They become really irritated and say we don't have truth in sentencing, because 20 years doesn't really mean 20 years. In 2009, Judge Gull was actually able to put a stop to a systemic issue with Allen County's good behavior credit system. See, Allen County Community Corrections was handing out good credit to people serving terms on home detention. That was a flagrant violation of state law. In the course of presiding over a case, Judge Gull noted that this was occurring and looked into the practice. This resulted in Allen County Community Corrections changing its policy altogether.
Judge Gull also spoke on different issues, criticizing the state's reliance on courtroom fees and sounding the alarm on judicial rules she felt might have unintended consequences. It's seemingly been a while since she's done this, but for years she was quoted in Associated Press articles out of Fort Wayne, weighing in on the legal questions of the day.
Of course, headline-generating trials and major legal questions may stand out in a judge's career, but we'd argue that some of the day-to-day courtroom interactions and tasks have more of an impact on a community. Now, most news articles don't give too much detail on those smaller moments, but there are a few glimmers that shine through here and there.
One 1999 article noted that Judge Gull got a few laughs from the jury when, while trying to explain why court reporters alternate with one another through the trial, she said it was because their ankles got cramps rather than their wrists. She was also very blunt with this particular jury, which was hauled all the way from Porter County.
"We know this will be very inconvenient for all of you," she said.
In 1998, Nikki Kelly of Fort Wayne's Journal-Gazette did a profile on a couple who started sitting in on trials as a hobby. No, it wasn't Anya and I time traveling back to the 90s. This was about Pam Roberts and Billy Chittum. They told the Journal-Gazette that Gull was one of their favorite judges because she kept complete control of the courtroom and comes across as very smart. That sense of control comes in part from not tolerating antics, but also from maintaining good relationships with other attorneys. Judge Gull told the Indiana lawyer that she strived to maintain a level of decorum and civility amongst professionals in the courtroom.
"I am fortunate to live and work in a jurisdiction that has always demanded civility of its bar. The attorneys I see daily are not only the best and the brightest the profession has to offer, but the most civil as well. I hear of attorneys treating each other in the court disrespectfully, yet here in Allen County, an attorney's word is their bond. I treat the attorneys with respect, and I am pleased to say it is mutual."
We can also pinpoint the moment in time when Judge Gull's crusade against phones in courtrooms began. And we also found out that this isn't really a Judge Gull-specific thing. It stems from Allen County as a whole. In 2006, cell phones, pagers, and electronic devices were banned from the Allen County Courthouse.
"Our buildings and courts across the country are called temples of justice," Judge Gull told the Associated Press. "The reason it's akin to temples is because of the solemnity of things going on. When you get ringtones going off, inappropriate ones that we've all been exposed to in elevators in the mall, it interferes with what's going on."
But it was not just the fact that obnoxious Black Eyed Peas ringtones were going off in the middle of serious trials. There were security issues too. Contemporary newspaper reports vaguely mention a few incidents involving people snapping photos of attorneys, jurors, witnesses, and victims.
In early January of 2007, Judge Gull told the AP that the transition to a phone-free courthouse was surprisingly smooth. In quite an amusing contrast, the article goes on to describe frustrated courthouse visitors scrambling to stash their phones in their cars, or even getting desperate and tossing them into nearby bushes.
A few years later, in 2012, WOWAM News Director Dave Wheaton had his phone seized at a hearing in the case of Michael Plumidor, who was accused of bludgeoning 9-year-old Alana Lemon to death. Judge Gull found Wheaton in contempt of court and ordered his phone destroyed. The judge did rule that WOWAM News could extract information from the phone prior to its destruction. Plumidor ultimately pled guilty and was sentenced to life.
We tend to believe Allen County's severe attitude towards phones is draconian, and we express solidarity with Mr. Wheaton. But it was eye-opening to learn about where it came from, and frankly, a bit reassuring to know that Judge Gull isn't engaging in a one-woman Luddite revolution.
In general, we would add that Judge Gull seemed invested in revamping outdated or struggling systems. In fact, during her interview with the Indiana Supreme Court for an open spot on the bench, Judge Gull picked innovative when asked to describe herself in one word. In the 90s, she appeared in news articles about Allen County's revamping of the bond system. She said it was important to free up jail beds by not forcing people charged with nonviolent Class A, B, C, and D felonies and misdemeanors to post bail. Keep in mind that Indiana's felony classification has since changed a lot. A few years later, she expressed relief at the completion of Allen County's new $20.3 million Justice Center, which expanded jail space.
"Man, I'm glad this is done. This has been a long and arduous journey we've been on," she told the press.
In 2003, she helped design a new system regarding video hearings. She said one particular goal with the new system was to hold hearings to determine whether or not a person should be treated for mental health problems, without having to haul said inmate from jail to the courthouse, constrained with handcuffs and shackles. That can cause problems, Gull said. It frightens some of them, and it's just not right to parade them through this building like we have to now.
One area in particular that Judge Gull has worked on is jury reform. For instance, in 2002, Indiana courts grappled with a new rule that said judges should inform jurors of their right to question witnesses. Judge Gull supported that. She noted that juries shouldn't be told, "You're going to sit here, listen to complicated, sometimes boring and complex things you don't understand, and we're not going to let you take notes, and we're not going to let you ask questions." The Indiana Supreme Court has also credited Judge Gull with spearheading systems that allow for jurors to communicate with court administrators via text or QR codes.
The judge discussed some updates to the jury software system in her profile with the Indiana lawyer.
"We updated our software to keep up with the newest technology available. We offered to conduct a beta test for our software vendor to take advantage of that technology. We try to encourage as many of our citizens as possible to serve on juries, so making it easier for them to perform that civic duty is my goal."
She also added that the juries seem to appreciate the new changes.
"They love it. Jurors have been asking if they could fill out an online questionnaire for some time, so having the ability to do so via the internet or by telephone or the traditional mail has resulted in better yield of folks showing up to serve. And the text messaging has been quite interesting, giving jurors the ability to communicate with our office 24/7.
In 2015, she received the National G. Thomas Munsterman Award for Jury Innovation for her efforts.
Here's one project that Judge Gull has worked on that has attracted quite a bit of attention from our friends and colleagues who work with television news stations.
For decades, Indiana has barred media cameras in courtrooms, making televising trials difficult. But that all may change soon, and Judge Gull is at the forefront of that shift. In 2021, she opted into a pilot program where media cameras were allowed in 5 Indiana trial courts. That could have major implications for coverage of the Delphi murders trial.
Judge Gull has also had to introduce flexible measures to the Allen County court system, especially during complicated, uncertain times. For instance, in April 2020, at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, there were major concerns about the impact of the virus on jails and prisons. At that point, no inmates and staffers at Allen County facilities had tested positive yet. Still, Judge Gull ordered the release of 20 nonviolent inmates who were evaluated and deemed to pose no risk to the community.
Outside of the courtroom, Judge Gull's online biography indicates that she has spent decades supporting one organization that ties into her legal work. We're talking about SCAN, Stop Child Abuse and Neglect. This Fort Wayne-based charitable organization holds that Indiana has one of the worst rates of child abuse and neglect in the United States. It seeks to protect children from abuse and neglect.
It's no surprise that she would support an organization like SCAN. Judge Gull has presided over so many cases involving violence and abuse against children. Back when she was a prosecutor, she focused on crimes against children for a time. It's somewhat of a through line across her entire career.
That seems directly tied to her dedication to the future of Allen County. Children are completely reliant on the adults tasked with caring and providing for them. When those adults turn out to be the ones doing harm to them, that's a traumatic breach of trust that sometimes the legal system can only grapple with after it's too late. Judge Gull's legal career has also likely informed her that children exposed to constant abuse and violence can grow up into adults suffering from many different issues, including addiction or trouble with the law.
Children are society's most precious and most vulnerable members, and SCAN offers them and their parents the best chance to grow up healthy, Judge Gull told the Indiana lawyer.
So far, we've delved into Judge Gull's lengthy legal career. We've talked about a few major cases she tackled and how she handled them. We've given you a glimpse of her courtroom style, how she deals with attorneys and jurors and the media.
As we've described, Judge Gull has presided over some horrific cases. These are depressing killings that deaden your faith in humanity.
In researching her career, we came across cases of mothers who choked their infant sons with telephone cords. and baby wipes.
Or the man who, after his accomplice's mask slipped, listened and did nothing as a young couple was shot to death.
Or the former Fort Wayne police officer who gunned down 2 men over a drug deal, killing an innocent man and wounding another.
Reading through newspaper clip after newspaper clip summarizing these cases left us feeling hollowed out. And we're not working on them directly. We're just reading about them after the fact. These cases aren't what the public pictures when they imagine murder cases, but they are certainly more common than the cases that often get the spotlight.
There's a futility about these kinds of cases. They help add to a sense that truly horrific things are always going to happen, no matter what we do. All of it seems like enough to make one feel less engaged in issues of criminal justice. But that is not the tack that Judge Gull has taken. In fact, she leads a truly proactive, life-changing program in Allen County. One that is set up to help people overcome their self-destructive tendencies. We know that for a fact because we have seen her in action. We've been to Allen County's drug court, and we will share everything that we saw with you.
If you're interested in learning more about the Richmond Hill case, we recommend that you check out Love and Greed in the Heartland, The Richmond Hill Murders. It's a book by reporter Russ McQuaid from CBS 4 and Fox 59, along with Robert L. Snow. We'll link to it in our show notes. This episode relied extensively on reporting from journalists on the ground.
The Associated Press included lots of in-depth coverage of the Allen County court system, so we drew from that frequently. So did Fort Wayne's Journal-Gazette. We'll link to the profile on Judge Gull that ran in the Indiana Lawyer.
Local journalists on the ground are so crucial to every community. We would really encourage folks to, if they can, support local journalism. When local news outlets slide by the wayside, all sorts of bad things happen in the ensuing darkness. With that being said, we relied on information that ran in the following publications. We'll read out their names and locations to avoid confusion. Baptist News,
The Bedford Times-Mail,
CBS 4,
The Columbus Republic,
the Evansville Courier and Press,
The Franklin Daily Journal,
Fox 59,
The Greenfield Daily Reporter,
Indiana Capital Chronicle,
The Indianapolis News,
the Indianapolis Star,
The Jasper Herald,
the Kokomo Tribune,
The Lafayette Journal and Courier,
the Logansport Pharaohs Tribune,
The Martinsville Reporter-Times,
the Midland Reporter Telegram,
The Muncie Star Press,
the Munster Times,
The Noblesville Ledger,
the Richmond Palladium Item,
The Seymour Tribune,
the South Bend Tribune,
The Tipton County Tribune,
Valparaiso University School of Law's Alumni News Magazine,
Valparaiso University School of Law's The Amicus,
the Vedette Messenger of Porter County,
The Vincennes Sun Commercial,
Wayne.com.
Thanks so much for listening to The Murder Sheet. If you have a tip concerning one of the cases we cover, please email us at murdersheet@gmail.com. If you have actionable information about an unsolved crime, please report it to the appropriate authorities.
If you're interested in joining our Patreon, that's available at www.patreon.com/murdersheet. If you want to tip us a bit of money for records requests, you can do so at www.buymeacoffee.com/murdersheet. We very much appreciate any support.
Special thanks to Kevin Tyler Greenlee, who composed the music for The Murder Sheet, and who you can find on the web at kevintg.com.
If you're looking to talk with other listeners about a case we've covered, you can join the Murder Sheet discussion group on Facebook. We mostly focus our time on research and reporting, so we're not on social media much. We do try to check our email account, but we ask for patience as we often receive a lot of messages. Thanks again for listening.
I want to take a moment here to say thanks again to Brilliant Earth. I think in this day and age, it's always difficult to find a company that delivers fine quality products while still maintaining high ethical standards. And that's especially hard to find in the jewelry business. But Brilliant Earth is that company.
Absolutely. They've actually trademarked their Beyond Conflict-Free guarantee. That essentially means that they're going above and beyond to ensure that their diamonds are ethically sourced. They offer a wide range of different natural diamonds as well as lab diamonds. But you can rest assured that these are going to be coming from operators in countries that are maintaining global standards when it comes to labor and environmental practices. So you won't have your special ring, your engagement ring, your wedding band be tainted with this idea that it came from an unethical and problematic situation. It's a real load off of your mind as a consumer, because even try as we might, it's often hard to kind of maintain those best practices in your own life when you're shopping for products. So this is a brand that does the work for you in that.
And you can visit their website. They have a terrific selection of quality merchandise.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that it's not just diamond engagement rings and wedding bands. They have jewelry for men. They have religious jewelry. They have tennis bracelets that are super cute. I love their willow rings because they're kind of like have a naturey vibe. And I mean, I don't consider myself like a hippie or anything, but I vibe with those. I think they were really pretty. I also like their Frisia diamond rings. Those are more of like the classic engagement ring you think of when you think of engagement rings. And so I just think there's something for everybody. I think you can go in there and look at some of their beautiful offerings, but you could actually go and design your own ring to ensure that you're getting the perfect thing that just matches your personality, makes a statement, and, you know, tells people a bit about, you know, what you like, what your tastes are, and how you are as a person. So if you're looking for an engagement ring, if you're looking for a wedding band, if you're just looking for a gift for someone that you care about who loves jewelry, visit brilliantearth.com. They've got a great selection. Check it out. And you really can't go wrong with that.
And again, that's brilliantearth.com.